What's up guys, welcome back to another content advent calendar video. Today we're going to dive into Lightroom. We're going to edit a Christmas food photo. I'm going to show you a couple of little tricks and we're going to apply some of the things we've done earlier in this content advent calendar series as well to this photo. So let's dive in. I've got this photo here. This is of Bailey's Yule log. I was going to say a Bailey's chocolate Yule log, but I guess the whole point is it's not a chocolate Yule log, it's a Bailey's Yule log. I haven't tasted it. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm excited to taste it, but let's go ahead and edit the photo. Now, first of all, we're going to do some global adjustments, which means affecting the photo as a whole. We're going to do things like affecting the light, affecting the exposure, and affecting the color as well. Then we're going to move on to some local adjustments using masking. Then I'm going to show you some cool stuff that we're going to do. So first things first, let's do some global adjustments. First of all, I might brighten the image as a whole, just a touch, bit of exposure. I might just bring the highlights down. I might just bring the shadows. Do you know what? I'm going to leave the shadows as they are. I'm going to bring that texture up and the clarity up a little bit as well. And the vibrance up. I'm going to leave saturation as it is for now. I'm going to go ahead and place a point on the curve here in the shadows and in the highlights. And let's go in the middle as well. I'm going to raise those black levels right at the bottom. That's going to give us a little bit of a faded look, but then I'm going to bring the shadows down. So we've got a sort of a faded look, but we're still retaining a nice bit of contrast in there. I'll leave the other points for now. We can always come back and change them as well. Hue, saturation, and luminance. I really want to affect the colors here. I want to make a more of an orange feel, a warm feel, and get rid of some of this yellow. Now, of course, we've got some gold here as well. That's fine, we can keep that in, but let's go ahead and let's bring the orange down towards more of a burnt orange, a richer orange. Let's bring the yellow right down towards an orange sort of area. So we remove a bit of that sort of yellow feel from the icing, from some of this area here. I really like that. Aqua, I'm going to move over to more of an aqua feel, more of a blue feel, rather than the blue over towards an aqua. That's probably not going to do too much, which is fine. And let's go into luminance here. Let's just bring the yellow up a touch. That's, you know, if I do that, you can see it's brightening the actual Bailey's Yule log there, which is ideal. I want to brighten the subject a little bit. Let's go into saturation as well. Let's just bring the orange up a touch and yellow up just a touch. I'm going to go back into hue. I'm going to bring the reds down a little bit just to richen them up a little bit as well. Now, in the color grading, that's where we can add some color into the midtones, the shadows, the highlights. Let's add a bit of color into the midtone. Let's pop a bit of orange in there. I want to make this a nice warm photo. Let's pop a bit of orange into the highlights as well. Not too much, but just enough. We might dial back the midtones there a little bit, just a little bit. And then with the shadows, let's pop a little bit of blue in there. You know, nothing too crazy, but just something a little bit opposite to the orange. Now let's turn that off, turn that back on. I like that. It's pretty subtle, but I like the look of it. Let's come down here. I'm going to leave this alone. I'm going to enable profile corrections. This was taken on the Sony 24-70 f2.8G master lens. So we'll just pop those on. I think that's a good habit to just pop those on anyway. I don't think we need to do much with the transform tab. Let's see what happens if I click auto. Nothing. I didn't think there was much to do there anyway. So I'm going to leave that off. Let's pop a little bit of a vignette on here. And I'm going to show you what we're going to do in a second to really highlight our subject. And in the calibration, I'm going to bring the red primary towards orange and the blue towards sort of a teal. Just a touch. I might dial that back a bit. I like where we've got to so far. We can press the backslash key to see the before. That's where we started. And this is where we're at right now. So we've adjusted a bit of exposure and a bit of color. But what I want to do now is go in with some local adjustments and really kind of mix this up a bit. So let's come up here to masking, click on that, and let's go for a radial gradient. Now this is going to open a new mask here, and I can draw this radial gradient on like that. Just left click and drag. I'm going to place that over the actual Yule log here. I'm just going to adjust it slightly there. And I'm going to just bring the exposure up a touch. Not too much, but that is just going to brighten everything inside that circle. You can see the two circles creates kind of a feathering effect. That's really nice. Let's go up and click create new mask. Let's go radial gradient again. Let's draw the same sort of thing, a nice sort of big oval over the Yule log here. But this time I want to come to mask 2, radial gradient 1, and I want to click these 3 dots and click invert. Now that's going to be now affecting everything outside of these circles. Let's bring the exposure down. Let's darken everything kind of around our main subject here. So that's actually pretty powerful. If I turn the masks off entirely and then back on, look how much we're affecting things. Now let's go create new mask. Let's go brush. And let's warm this up. Let's get a nice sort of big brush. I'm going to paint in some warmth in the background here. Just want to get a nice bit of warm tones all around. I think that actually looks pretty good. I like this kind of feel of that. I don't want to affect the subject too much, but if I go ahead and just turn this mask off now and back on, it has kind of a Christmassy feel to it. So I'm going to leave that as is. Now, I'm pretty happy, to be honest, with how this photo looks, but there's one more thing I want to do, and this is where it gets quite kind of fun and quite interesting. Now, you may have seen our video earlier in the month. We talked about Lightroom presets. Lightroom has a bunch of presets built in to it, which you can use to edit your photos. They're over here on the left. So for example, if I mouse over a couple of these, there's a few. And if I'm honest with you, yes, cinematic I like in particular. That's a folder within these presets. Yes, they're a bit full on, but I mean, that one, for example, I actually quite like. This one, I actually really like. They're very stylistic, and then maybe a little bit too much. And what would be nice is to be able to apply that and reduce essentially the opacity of that filter. Well, we can do that. What we're going to do is we're going to come down here to the photo here. I'm going to right click it and I'm going to click create virtual copy. And Lightroom is going to just create another version of this, exactly the same editing, all of that sort of stuff. So now we've got two versions of it. Now, what I'm going to do with the second one is apply, let's go for this one, this cinematic preset. So we've got the same photo, but one is colored the way we did it, and one is edited in the new way with this preset. Now, I really like that. So what we're going to do to merge these two things together is select one of them, hold shift and left click on the next one. We're going to click right click, edit in and open as layers in Photoshop. Now, Lightroom is then going to actually put these photos into Photoshop as two different layers. And this way we can actually merge them together. And this is something I do if I really like a preset, but I think it's too strong. I'm going to do something like this because then I can dial back the preset a little bit. So let's have a look. Lightroom has put both of these photos in. We've got both of the photos open as layers, just about. We've got one of them open. The second one is here. There we go. We've got two layers here. One is the photo that we edited, and the second is with the preset. So let's put the preset one on top. We just left click and drag that up. And let's literally just reduce that opacity. So let's bring it down to something like 50% and see how that looks. Pretty good, actually. We can turn that off and then back on. Let's bring it down a little bit further. I think maybe 35%. Look at that. All of a sudden, we've applied a bit of this preset without doing too much. We could even bring it down a bit further if you want. Let's go to 20% maybe. I think that's making a nice little difference without going too far. And then, of course, we're in Photoshop. We can do various things here. We could go in, add an adjustment layer, color lookup, and we could add something like, let's add crisp warm. Okay, now it's way too much at 100%, but let's bring that opacity down to something like 20%, 23%. Let's see what that looks like. Turn it off. Turn it on. It's adding a bit of contrast, adding a bit of warmth. Maybe it's too much. Maybe we don't want that, so we turn that back off. But essentially, we've merged these two layers together. All we have to do now is press Ctrl S. That's going to save this file. And when we close Photoshop, it's now going to be back in Lightroom as the new photo with the two things merged together. So let's go ahead and close Photoshop here. And here we are, the new photo with the two photos actually merged together. Perfect. Really easy way of combining those presets with your own editing style and actually being able to affect the opacity. Now, there is something else we can do. We can come up here on the right. You might see there's this little grid kind of pattern here. Now we can go ahead and actually pick various different kind of presets. I mean, this one looks quite nice. We can just mouse over them. This one looks quite nice as well. I actually really like that. That's a nice warm feel to it. But these we can actually affect with this slider up here. We can just reduce the amount. And this is a little bit like the intensity, the opacity of this preset. I really like this one. Let's bring this to about, you know what? Let's bring it back to 100. Let's click close. And look at this. I absolutely love this. Now let's see what the original photo looked like before. So that was how we edited it. That's what it was like before. And this is where we took it to. Now I think that has a real Christmassy feel. I love the color grading. You might feel it's a little bit much. We could always bring the saturation down just a touch. You may feel it's too contrasty, but I hope you get the idea. I hope that's useful for the tutorial. Usually with these tutorials, I go a little bit further than maybe I would, although actually I really like this, if I'm honest. But because it gives you a good idea of how I would actually do this stuff and how I would apply this stuff. And you can go in and use any of these presets we've looked at in the past and in previous videos. Do that same thing we did where we bring them into Photoshop, put them together, just reduce the opacity of the one with the preset. You're essentially adding that color grade on to your photo. And like I say, I'm really, really happy with how this particular one has come out. Now, if you have any questions, of course, pop them down in the comments. Let me know. Do you like this style? Do you think it's interesting? Anything else you'd like to see as well? Let me know down in the comments, because of course, we've got new videos all the way up to Christmas Eve. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's only actually tomorrow? Is that tomorrow? I think it's tomorrow. Yes, today's the 23rd, so that'll be tomorrow. I mean, I'm recording this not on the 23rd. That'd be crazy, but I'm only about a day ahead. So, of course, there's not a lot of time left on the content advent calendar, but you know what? There's a whole bunch of more videos. January, the rest of December, and then, of course, all the other months as well. So let me know what you want to see down in the comments, because I will absolutely do my best to get to all of the suggestions. There's been a load of good ones, actually, and I've just been waiting for a break in the weather for some of them. So time-lapse, we're going to look at some of the photos, some of the portraits that I did a couple of years ago. There's loads of good suggestions out there, so pop any more down in the comments and I'll absolutely get to them. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Of course, I'll see you tomorrow. But until then, as always, thanks for watching.